Hey, I'm Mark Wilson. Thanks for joining me. I've got a lot of questions about the mistakes to avoid, tips to make it better. So I thought I'd put together a quick video, let you guys know. If you've watched my other videos before, you know I keep it very simple. There's other videos on this as well. A lot of great information. But I got to tell you, I'm not listing 100 things of what you should or shouldn't do. I don't have time for that. And I don't think you've got time for that either. So we're going 5 and 5. I have a lot of other concepts and ideas, tips, but we'll keep it with the main ones to focus on. So let's get to it. Mistake number 1, trimming it. Either you didn't trim it or you trimmed too much and you got bald spots and it dries out. I can tell you the first one I ever made, I did not trim it. And it resulted in mouthfuls full of fat. Nobody cared for that. The goal is to get it down to 1/4 of an inch on the fat side, trim off the extraneous stuff on the front, the tickle fat, and that basically will help protect the meat, stop it from drying out, and allow a nice flavor for when people taste your brisket. Number 2 is the wood. Is your wood seasoned? Is there too much moisture content into it? Those are key things. Because if you have too much moisture in your wood, it's going to start hissing at you, and you're not going to have a good flavor when you smoke. Other aspects of the wood is, are you running a clean smoke or are you running a dirty smoke? If you've got a lot of gray billowy smoke coming out of the top of your smoker, that's not a good sign. You want to be nice and clean. Barely see a whiff of it coming out of there, and keep it as clean as possible. It makes a huge difference. So about 225 on the thermometer. You can see how the top is a nice clean smoke going through the whole cook process. The third thing is the temperature. The goal is 225 to 275 depending on the kind of smoker that you've got. Anything over 275, you're just going to be kind of dried out, kind of like your Aunt Maybell's turkey. So I guess my point I'm trying to convey to you is, if you're rolling this thing at 300 degrees on a brisket at 12 hours, you best call up your aunt and figure out what that gravy recipe is that makes that thing edible. Fourth on the list is the rest period. Now you've got to let this damn thing rest at least 2 hours. That's the bare minimum. If you've got something to keep it warm, like a warmer, you can get at 165. You can go maybe 12 to 14 hours, but after that, the meat really starts to degrade. I found that 5 to 8 hours is about damn perfect. The last I've got on my list is the finishing time. A lot of people underestimate how long it's going to take. A lot of different factors. Just because you cooked it one way a month ago, could be the temperature change, dropped, could be a lot of difference of your wood, difference of the quality of meat. A lot of different factors comes into play, but the finishing time, I've been around, and you need to make sure you give yourself plenty of room, which is why that rest period comes into play. So you give yourself plenty of time for that, because I can tell you what, I've seen it. The last thing you want is about 4 hours late for a cook, and you've got a lot of people sitting around waiting for that to be done, and they've been drinking on an empty stomach. Trust me, things can go wrong real quick like with that. First tip is fat. You want to retain that fat that you've trimmed off of it. You're going to do two things with it. One, you're going to put it in a pan, you're going to put it in your smoker, you're going to let it melt down, and it's going to render into what's called beef tallow. You want the good fat though. There's two different types. I'll put a link in the video so you can see me talk about that and how to trim the brisket. But it makes a huge difference, because we're going to use that in another part of the tip, the process. The other thing you're going to do with the fat is, you're going to, when you go to put another log or chunk of wood on the fire, you're going to throw a little piece of fat in there. It's going to give you a nice distinct flavor, taste, and if your fire's going out, trust me, it'll help kick it up a notch. The second one is spray. Now, I use a spray that consists of 3/4 apple cider and 1/4 Worcestershire sauce. Now, whether you use the hard cider, apple cider vinegar, or apple cider virgin kind, doesn't matter, but it gives it a nice color, gives it a nice flavor. Third tip is wrap it, wrap it, wrap it, wrap it. And this is where the beef tallow comes in from the first step, and the spray comes in from the second step. You're going to use that spray to soften it up by spraying down the butcher paper. And I will say butcher paper. Butcher paper, butcher paper. And you want it as tight as can be. And if you use butcher paper, you can put it back in the smoker. It's going to continue to get some more smoke into it and get more flavor into your meat. If you wrap this thing up in aluminum foil, you might as well just go take it and put it in the damn oven, because you're not getting any more smoke into that. But wrapping it in butcher paper, spraying it down, and putting that beef tallow all over it, I gotta tell you, that's gonna make a huge difference. So number 4, salt and pepper was a mainstay back in the day. I mean, but then again, so was riding a damn horse everywhere we went, right? Just like we've evolved into driving cars, so is seasoning briskets. So get past the fact that brisket has to only be salt and pepper, and even garlic. There's countless other things put in there that are really great. And hey, I'll leave a description for you down below this for you to check out. So the last one I have for you, the thermometer. Yeah, I've heard it. You just push in the fat to determine whether it's done or not. Hey, and if you're great at trimming it consistently every time and getting the same cut of meat every time, and going through the same process of keeping it steady, you probably wouldn't be watching this video. But I can tell you this much: I've done a lot of them, and I rely heavily upon that digital thermometer. So I suggest you do too, because if you're not trimming the fat the same way every time, getting the same cuts, chances are you may be off. And the temperature to pull that thing is, we go to wrap it, is 165 to wrap it, and 200 to pull it. Because just like a steak, when you pull it off the grill, you got to figure you got about five more degrees. It's going to continue to cook on the inside. And it's no different from this thing. And the magic temperature of letting this thing start cooling down is to reach 205. So around 200, that's when you want to pull it. The main thing is to have fun with it. There's been very few people that's ever made a brisket that hasn't screwed one of them up. I know I have, and if you haven't done it, then hats off to you. I got to tell you one thing though: have fun with it, enjoy it, and remember this: the only thing more expensive than education is ignorance. So, hope you follow these tips. Hope they're helpful. Shoot me a message, cookingwithwilson@gmail.com, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whichever one floats your boat, whichever one works for you. I'm going to have some in the description of these tips. I'm also going to have links to a cookbook. The cookbooks, every volume I create, I give all the money that I receive to a charity. This time around, it's smiletrain.org. If you want to donate directly, the link's going to be down there in the description. It'd be greatly appreciated. They focus on cleft lip repair, and help put smiles on kids' faces. So I think we can all realize that this time in the world we live in, we could all use more kids smiling and more people smiling. So feel free to head over there. If you want to grab the cookbook, there's links to that and links to the other versions as well. It'd be greatly appreciated. I hope you take care, and I hope to see you again.